We welcome the use of the Welsh language at meetings. I have had no request for people to speak Welsh today, so this meeting will be conducted in English only. Members in the chamber, please be aware that we are all on camera and you may be visible on screen when people around you are speaking. And please remember to speak clearly into your microphones. Members participating remotely, can you please refrain from using the chat function and instead use the raised hand icon to indicate when you want to speak? Please remember to keep your microphones muted when you're not talking. Thank you. Moving on to the agenda. Agenda item 1, attendance. Democratic Services will be making a note of members' attendance in the meeting this morning, but should you lose connection, could you possibly leave a comment in the chat bar on your return to ensure that this is picked up? Agenda item 2, apologies for absence. Dominique, do we have any apologies, please?
I've had apologies from councillors Liam Cowles, John Hawler and Chris Tew.
Thank you. Any other apologies from the floor? Thank you. Agenda item 3, declarations of interest. Tim James, Chief Legal Officer, have you any advice for members, please?
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of comments for members. 3 items on the agenda I wanted to just speak to members about. Item 9, the annual report of the Ethics and Standards Committee. Item 12, which is the delivery agreement for the replacement LDP, and item 13, the annual scrutiny report. My view is that there are no declarations necessary in relation to any of those items. Certainly in relation to item 9, I don't see there's any need for members who are on the Ethics and Standards Committee to make any declarations there. It's simply reporting it's simply the annual report of that committee. Item 12, the delivery agreement. While some members declared, I believe, personal interests when the LDP was considered because of their role with community councils, bearing in mind this report is dealing with the actual delivery agreement, then in my view there's no need to declare any interest on that one. And then item 13, again, annual scrutiny report. It's an annual report of all the scrutiny committees, and I don't see any need for any members to declare any personal interest in relation to that item either. So that's my advice to members. Chair, do members have any questions for me on any other matters or on those matters I've mentioned, please? Okay, thank you, members.
Thank you, Tim. Takes us to agenda item 4, the confirmation of the council minutes of the 13th of the 6th, 2023, starting on page 5. Members, could you possibly state whether you have anything to raise in relation to the minutes? And if not, I will take them as approved. Councillor Jane Watkins.
Thank you. I sent in my apologies for that meeting, but they haven't been recorded.
Thank you, Jane. We'll make sure that they're recorded. Thank you. Any other comments? I'll take those as approved then, please, everyone. Yeah. Thank you. Agenda item 5, update on actions. Members, the update on what has been done to implement our previous decisions start on page 47 of the agenda. Could you possibly indicate whether you have any questions or comments? All right. Can I ask members whether you agree to note these update on actions then, please? Thank you. Noted. Thank you, members. Agenda item 6, the receipt of petitions. There are no petitions today, so we'll move on to agenda item 7, public question time. There are no public questions, so we'll move on to agenda item 8. Agenda item 8 is the announcements from the leader or the chief executive. Leader, do you have any announcements, please?
Thank you, Presiding Member. A few things to announce this morning. First of all, can I congratulate all those involved with the fire cadets who are holding their passing out ceremony at Cwmbran Fire Station this evening. Next, I'd like to congratulate all involved with Blenavon Bowls Club, who are celebrating their centenary season this year and are through to the semi-finals of the Carruthers Cup. Well done to all involved in another of our great community sports club, and that's something that's been recognised by the Blenavon members. I'd like to congratulate all the runners who competed in the Mick Morris Torvine 10K at the weekend. Thank you to the organisers, to Torvine Sports Development and to everyone who volunteered. I took part marshalling on my bike, which to be fair was a lot easier than running it, as well as a great event showing off the beautiful north of the Torvine. The event raises money to help budding athletes and sports stars from across our local area. Can I thank everyone who attended the portrait unveiling this morning for James Prosser, and to Alan, Jason and all the officers involved in citing James's portrait, which will be a fitting tribute to him. We'll arrange similar events for the unveiling of Kyle Adams and Michael Thacker's portraits, which will hopefully be ready soon. And with Gaynor James now in post as our Armed Forces Covenant champion, I know she'll continue this work of both delivering for our Armed Forces community and also remembering all those who have served. Members will have received the recent update from Councillor Clark on the encouraging visit from Eston this spring. I'd like to thank Richard, his officers, Rose and her scrutiny members, and everyone involved in our improvement journey. We recognise there is still more to do, but the work being done is certainly encouraging. On the last week of term, I'd also like to thank all the teaching and support staff in our schools for their hard work for our young people in Torvine. Lastly, members will have heard that Welsh Government support for free school meals children in school holidays introduced during the pandemic is coming to an end this summer. In recognition of the need to support our most vulnerable families through the cost of living crisis, I'd like to announce that we're in the process of securing approval for a cost of living payment of £50 per child for families who qualify for free school meals. This will help almost 4,300 young people in Torvine at a very difficult time. This help is in addition to the Food and Fun scheme run through Torvine Play, with 400 attendees per week signed up at 13 venues around Torvine. And I'd like to thank Torvine Play for their continuing inspiring work for our young people. I saw them out and about at the Party in the Park event in Pontypool Park recently, and they really are an inspiration for the way they're involved in their community and the way they help our young people with a spirit of fun and inclusivity. I'd also like to encourage anyone in financial difficulty to contact us, as we can help and advise alongside Torvine CAB through our financial inclusion team and via our nationally recognised discretionary housing payment scheme. So if you are having financial difficulties, then please do get in touch. And that's all for my announcements. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Deputy Chief Executive Nigel Aurelius, do you have any announcements, please?
No announcements.
Right. That takes us to agenda item 9, the annual report on the Ethics and Standards Committee on page 49. Rodriguez, Chair of the Ethics and Standards Committee, welcome this morning, and could you please deliver your report for us, please?
This is the 13th annual report to the Council, and it's my first as the new Chair of the Ethics and Standards Committee. As you'll see, it's a pretty concise report. I will touch on some of the main points in a minute, but it'd be remiss of me not to take this opportunity to acknowledge and thank the former Chair, Andrew Walsh, for all his work during his tenure on the committee. The report before you sets out the work of the last year. There were 3 ordinary meetings during the year. Pleased to say there were no complaints to be dealt with. The bulk of our time was spent looking at the members' small scheme donations, and throughout the year we approved 23 of these. We continue to have reports about councillors' attendance at meetings, seminars and training, and the purpose being to ensure that members perform their duties effectively. All the political party leaders have been communicated with to encourage all members to attend all relevant training and to re-emphasise the importance of promoting good conduct and behaviour. The importance of this was really reinforced to me when I attended the National Forum for the Chairs at the start of the year, where there was a massive focus on what the public would expect in terms of behaviour of members, and everyone working in accordance with the Nolan Principles, which obviously everyone would be pretty well versed. So going forward, we're going to be working with Daleth and the team to try and strengthen and continue to promote high standard of conduct by councillors. As a committee, we would like to be a bit more proactive and ensure we play a real positive and visible role in the council. So we're currently looking at the forward work plan to see how we can be a bit more effective and efficient in our work. So that's the annual report. I just wondered if there's any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Guest. Any questions from members? No, and I thank you for your report, and it's good to know that you're there in the background keeping an eye on us all. Thank you very much. The recommendations to start on page 50, are we all happy to accept those recommendations? Anybody against? Any abstentions? Thank you very much, that's carried. Agenda item 10, the county plan. 22 to 27, the delivery plan 22 to 23, end of year update, page 55 of your agenda. Nigel Aurelius, Deputy Chief Executive, could you deliver this report for us, please?
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. Members will be aware that the Council adopted a new 5-year county plan in December 2022 as part of the Council's governance arrangements. For meeting aspirations of the Council's new plan, we then committed to produce an annual delivery plan throughout the lifespan. The adopted county plan included our first delivery plan, which covered the year 22-23. The annual delivery plan then sets out to member staff and the public the work that is planned for each financial year in order to meet the Council's ambitions. It comprises a set of activities and milestones, and it's used to assess the progress made towards delivering the Council's priorities. Since its adoption, the annual delivery plan has been monitored each quarter, ensuring expected progress is being tracked and delivered. As we've now reached the end of the first reporting year, we're now able to provide the Council with the end-of-year position. In terms of performance, an overview is at paragraph 4.4 with more detail in Appendix 1, and Councillor Jones, after I've finished, is going to provide members with a more detailed update on the performance. Just before I hand over, in terms of how we're improving things or developing it going forward into 23-24, clearly this is a new plan, and the governance arrangement we wrapped around it were also new, and we're always looking at opportunities to improve these. Members will be aware that Council adopted the second delivery plan in February 2023, and that new delivery plan is a more concise, focused document. It doesn't mean we're doing less, but we're ensuring we're reporting on the activity that really matters. Outputs will continue to be monitored to demonstrate progress, forming the basis of quarterly monitoring and reporting during 23-24 and beyond. Our new approach to service planning also enables progress to be more readily managed and monitored through each directorate's internal performance management arrangements, with continued regularly reporting into corporate leadership team, policy development forum. Future updates will also then be received by scrutiny and council. In addition, we're looking to build into our monitoring a set of quantitative impact measures that will be used to provide regular updates on our performance. Finally, following the summer recess, we will begin considering the development of the 2024-25 delivery plan, and we're trying to get the timeline to ensure corporate service and financial planning are as closely aligned as they can be. And after Councillor Jones has given his update on performance, obviously all the Chief Officers are here to answer any detailed questions, as is Tom. Thank you.
Thank you, Nigel. Councillor Peter Jones, Executive Member.
Thank you. I would like to thank Nigel for his introductory remarks about this delivery report. This report is particularly important as it sets out in detail how the Council is performing against the county plan that was signed off by full Council last year. It is a long document of some 58 pages. Before I go into detail, I must record my thanks to Tom Roberts and all the officers involved in developing the report, as it has been a lot of work. I agree with everything that Nigel has said. The headlines in the report make good reading. The delivery plan 2022-23 end-of-year update shows that against the milestone set out, 71.2% were reported as on target or completed, green and blue. 24.6% of actions experiencing some difficulties, but with a clear route back to being on track, amber, and 3.7% deemed as having more significant concerns, red. An overview of progress against each objective is set out in the report. I hope members will agree that using the traffic light monitoring system makes it easier to see the specifics of how the Council is performing against each of the 9 wellbeing objectives. I know Stephen Vickers is not here today, but since his appointment, he and leadership team have focused on transforming the Council's performance management arrangements. Based on the evidence in this report, they are making a very good job of it. Audit Wales agrees with this, as I received a report last week from them on the Council's performance management arrangements. It is, I think, a positive news story regarding the arrangements that we've been putting in place over the last 12 to 18 months. The key headline being that the Council has developed new and appropriate arrangements to monitor and report on its performance. This report will need to be considered by our Governance and Audit Committee, but my initial reading is that it is a positive report. Before I go into detail, I want to make two observations. Firstly, the very small number of targets ranked as red are often related to capital projects. Here, the rampant inflation we have been experiencing lately is a major factor. Secondly, our county plan is dynamic, so there is lots of commentary in the report that any slippage will be caught up. We must not forget we are dealing with a 5-year plan, and we are looking here at the first year's report. I do not intend to go through the report page by page. Instead, I will pick out some highlights that cut across Cabinet portfolios, and at the end there will be an opportunity for members' questions. I will start with resources, as without prudent financial arrangements, we would not be able to deliver anything. Monitoring of performance in relation to our use of resources continues to show a strong position, albeit in really challenging circumstances. Behind our positive financial outturn position and ability to keep our council tax increase the lowest in Wales lies a strong financial management approach led by the Resources Directorate, but with the full collegiate support of each directorate. Indicators such as our council tax collection rates and the extent to which we can distribute discretionary payments to those in need show how effective our financial systems continue to be. I am confident that our human resources services continue to provide high-quality support to the well-being of our staff, and I'm proud of achievements such as our recent introduction of a menopause policy. I am also pleased to see our procurement arrangements with Cardiff Council is going from strength to strength, and as we strive for even higher levels of social value and transparency in our procurement, we look forward to a time when UK legislation supports us in those endeavours as a fair tax council. Our key challenges lie in managing resources in the face of ongoing uncertainty in relation to inflation, particularly in relation to paying capital projects. We are a learning council, and it is right that we reflect carefully on areas where we are looking to innovate and find solutions to these challenges. This is why the work of the Project Management Office will be so crucial. The need to maintain vital services such as social care, where markets and recruitment are so fragile, is a major challenge, and skill shortages in areas such as engineering and planning will also test us, as will continue to get the best out of hybrid working patterns. Regarding education, Richard Clark has been keeping us all updated about positive developments. Progress against the Estin inspection of March 2022, which has included the development of post-inspection annual plan, which has guided service development. There have been significant structural changes within the leadership team to correspond to key recommendations of the inspection, and this has led to clearer lines of responsibility and accountability. The Estin pilot monitoring visit in June 2023 provided an account of the journey so far with positive indications of progress. There has been significant achievement against the Welsh Education Strategic Plan, having developed 2 Welsh medium flying start settings and having established the Welsh Medium Immersion Project to increase language fluency. The enhanced level of support provided Ysgol Cymraeg Gwynedd saw them being removed from a category of special measures by Estin, and throughout the year 7 schools received Estin visits without none of them requiring any follow-up visit or activity. In social care, we have continued to support our in-house foster carers, which has included reviews of fees and investment in the family placement team to enhance support. We have exceeded our expectation of percentage of in-house foster carers against the independent foster carers with an 85% to 15% split. Our target was at least 80%. This significantly exceeds other LA areas' proportionate splits. We continue to provide an enhanced service to our highly valued foster carers. Whilst we aimed to safely decrease our children looked after population by 15%, we have not achieved this. However, we have reduced in year by 6%, which needs to be taken into the context of previous years prior to 2021, continued increase of up to 15% per year. Our figures continue to safely reduce, and safely is a key word, and we're investing Welsh Government money to accelerate our rate of reduction. We have gone from a high of 474 children to 383 by the end of 22-23. A further 15% reduction target rate has been set for 23-24. The adult services and housing portfolio continues to be challenging. In domiciliary care, we have given a greater fee uplift to providers this year compared to previous years. We intend on prioritising raising the rate of pay in local domiciliary care providers going forward. We are moving to a patch-based way of working to try and reduce the travel time and cost for domiciliary care workers. We have seen a reduction in the number of people waiting for a care package and a reduction in the number of allocated hours overall. I have not got those figures to hand. We are continuing to work on homelessness prevention in the face of an increasingly challenging and stressful environment, which Councillor Daniels reminds us of regularly. Our team continues to work hard to prevent households from becoming homeless. This is the most effective thing we can do right now. We continue to top up the discretionary housing payment pot locally, using it to prevent more people from losing their homes. We have developed new service models as part of the housing support programme. We have increased the number of supported housing units by 8 this year. The Pearl House Hub is now well underway. This will provide advice and support for people at risk of homelessness, as well as increasing the number of supported units in Pontypool. The flip side of the above point is that just about every element of housing across the country remains in crisis. The cost of renting privately continues to rise. Interest rates and mortgage payments are increasing, and the numbers on the home seekers register continues to outstrip the supply of properties, all of which means that the job of our housing solutions and homelessness teams' jobs are likely to continue to be incredibly challenging and stressful. We are making progress with stabilising the domiciliary care market, but the situation remains subject to intense focus for us due to the consequences of circumstances worsening. Recruitment remains an issue across Wales and the UK, and so needs addressing on a national level. The present situation with residential care providers means that it remains a concern for us. We're working hard to get agreement of fees, but whilst those providers who have not accepted our fees retain their position, capacity in the market remains impacted. This could potentially be an issue when setting fees in the next financial year. Whilst the number of people we've been able to support with reablement has increased this year, we still need to make further improvements to ensure that reablement services are at the centre of our social care package. In 2023-24, we will be developing a stronger, integrated, community-based reablement offer. In my own portfolio, we launched our new Digital First strategy recently, and equality work is embedded in all the work the Council does. We're going to examine our annual equality plan later in this Council meeting, so I'll keep my powder dry on that subject. The delivery report also highlights our ongoing work to reduce antisocial behaviour across Torfaen. The Executive Member for Communities is pleased that the target for recruiting volunteers was achieved, although with hindsight she feels there might be an opportunity to be even more aspirational going forward. The work on Green Meadow Farm is progressing, and it is positive to note the cross-party work that is happening. Turning to business and the economy, I would like to highlight the launch of Business Direct. We are the first local authority in Wales to offer a single point of contact service for both council services and business advice. This is something to be proud of and shows our commitment to grow in our economy through supporting businesses to survive and grow and positioning ourselves as a business-focused authority, understanding the needs of our business community. Whilst we do not yet have data areas to show its impact, we know the service has been welcomed by our local business community. I need to mention progress on Phase 1 works at the British. This is a significant project to realise the benefits of an unused industrial landscape. The immediate priority for the British remains to complete the Phase 1 clean and green works. The investigatory works has been completed and we are awaiting results of soil sample testing and analysis, which will be shared soon. This will inform the final design and planning application for a surface watercourse. Confidence in Phase 1 works stimulated interest for a not-for-profit company to explore the renewable energy potential of the British. Here there is good alignment with our council priorities. I am pleased we are getting the community engagement right after a period of inactivity, and we are working in partnership with Gwent Wildlife Trust to provide a programme of free events. We recognise there is more to be done in some respects, e.g. in bringing forward the Springboard reviewed business case. Oxford Innovation looked at the operating environment for Springboard and presented a number of funding options for consideration. Scrutiny considered these options and made recommendations. Our new head of economy identified further work, including a conditions survey and a further delivery partnership analysis. This has caused a delay, but it is expected to come to members in autumn this year. The highlight what I said earlier about the need to remember we're dealing with a 5-year plan. In Councillor Owen's portfolio, we're proud of the work around the Inclusive Play project. We did have some delays due to SUDS issues and construction problems, but Pontypool has been completed and has had valuable feedback. It is well used and welcomed. Cwmbran is on plan for completion. In respect of active travel schemes, we have delivered 5 schemes, all done on time and in budget, which is good news, as we have had previous delays but have learned from experience. Members will expect me to mention recycling. Service quality and performance in recycling and figures need improvement, as we know. We have been able to make improvements that have the new cycling fleet arrived earlier than expected. We are working on a new government approach, have strategic board in place to help drive the improvements forward. No doubt the councillors from Llantarnam will expect me to mention the 3D pitch in Llantarnam. We have put a new performance management officer in place, and this has helped drive forward the project management of the Llantarnam 3G pitch. The electrical vehicle strategy is behind. We did struggle to employ staff, which was needed to lead on the strategy and to help us plan our targets for 2030. We now have a plan in place. Regarding Pontypool and New Inn Station, we must focus on the positives and celebrate the success in the coming autumn. It is a good project which has cost £7.2 million. There has been some delays, but given the scale of the project, they have been reasonable delays. Members, you will be pleased that I've nearly finished. In conclusion, I hope everyone agrees that our ambition must be to be an outstanding council. I've tried to provide a balanced commentary, noting that we're meeting most of our targets, but recognising that we can always do better with some activities. Taking everything into account, I am proud of what this council achieved in 2022-23. The credit for this rests with the fantastic staff who work across our council. I hope they are proud of what they have achieved. I hope that my fellow councillors agree with the recommendations set out in the report. Madam Presiding Member, I will now hand back to you for members' questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Peter Jones. Any questions for either Nigel or Peter? Anthony? Oh, David? Oh, sorry, my apologies. Sue Martin.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Pete. Fantastic report, absolutely fantastic. I would like to thank all our staff and officers that have put this lengthy report together. Thank you to the teams in the financial inclusion teams, the homeless teams. I'm quite aware now that we are in another pandemic. We are in high cost living. So many are suffering out there at the moment, and I'm aware of departments, how they are working with the residents of Torvine. I'm also aware of how strenuous it can be on our staff members. So thank you once again, all of you. You're doing a fantastic job.
Thank you, Councillor Molson. Councillor Thomas? Colette, you're on mute. Sorry.
Sorry, I'd like to pay a big thank you and pay tribute to all our staff in the finance department. When we look at the amount of money for the discretionary housing payments and the discretionary housing payments, they far outreach their targets. I think we were on target to spend over £300,000, and at the end we spent £449,000. So I think it's a real, for a small council, I think it's a fantastic effort. So thanks to everybody there.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Anyone else? Councillor David Williams?
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. I think, yes, I agree with the comments that have been made. It is very much a good news story. And I think it's showing the progress that has been made, given that we actually adopted this plan only last year. Just a couple of small checks, really, or questions that I would want to ask about some of our progress and travel. So the first one was on page 76, where we have this programme of fitting the photovoltaic panels to schools. Great to see that this is progressing, and I think this will be a real benefit to our schools. But my question, I guess, is do we think there may be some scope to extend the number of schools benefiting as we go forward? I don't know who's the most best positioned to reply, but it was a question I wanted to flag up because I think obviously it's the right direction to go. I do have a couple of other questions as well, only two more, but I don't know if you want me to ask them all at once or whether to deal with them one by one.
Take that. It's Mandy's portfolio, but I'm going to steal it because it's on schools, and schools obviously come and undermine. Yes, we can do better, and certainly with the costs of energy being one of the primary inflationary covers in our schools, we will be looking at the recycling fund loan scheme to extend the system. And as part of Project Apollo, we're looking at it's in here somewhere, I can never remember, thermal heat pumps, sorry, couldn't remember the expression, to help with the situation in the school. I should have let you do it, Mandy. You probably could have said it a lot better than me. But yes, as Peter said in his presentation, we can always do better. And although I'm very proud of what we've done, I think those two examples will help us to go further.
Thank you very much. My next question, again, it's really just to sort of check if we feel we're on progress, because obviously page 98, we've had the net zero carbon fleet strategy, and it's good to see that it has progressed. But it was really just to sort of see, do we still feel we're online for completion by the end of 2023?
Shall I come in on that one? It is ambitious, David. It is ambitious, but we are working really hard to ensure that we do reach those targets.
My last question, Madam Presiding Officer, was relates to page 109, because it was slightly disappointing to see that the place plans for Blaenavon, Pontypool and Cwmbran are still red in the plan. And I know that this involves a wide cross-section of partners, not just the council. So it's really just to get some assurance that there is pieces of work going on behind the scenes to look at setting things up and setting good foundations for this work.
Thank you. Councillor Ron Burnett.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate all the thanks everybody has said, and Peter for the report. I thought he was never going to finish. But that's because it's such a vast report and the work that's gone into it. And it just shows how hard everybody's worked to achieve all this, and just thank everybody for the hard work that's gone into it.
Thank you. Councillor Joe Gordon, did you want to speak?
Thank you, Rose. Yeah, I just wanted to come back on the place plans. So, yeah, 2 of our 3 town place plans have been approved. So that was Penavon and Pontypool, and we used them to form the evidence base as part of our levelling up fund applications. The third one for Cwmbran hasn't moved at pace for several reasons. So, firstly, the ownership of Cwmbran Town Centre changed hands, so it wasn't the right time at that point to be progressing the place plan. We've now got good engagement, a good relationship with the new owners, and we've had opportunities to move forward plans for House of Fraser. We've worked with LCP on bringing lounges to town and also looking at funding applications for Gwent Square. We also need to consider aligning our place plan in Cwmbran to transport infrastructure. Obviously, we've got the adjacent rail station and the bus station, and we need some more detail from current ongoing work before we can add that to the plan. So I think the place plan will be complete before Christmas. That's what we're aiming for. And thank you for your question.
Thank you, Councillor Joe Gordon. Councillor Anthony Hunt.
Thank you, Presiding Member. I'd like to thank Peter and thank everyone involved in this report for what I think is an honest and grown-up self-assessment of where we are, both where we're improving and where we're looking to improve, but also, I think, importantly, pointing out the things that we do well as a council. I hope members recognise that that's part of a growing culture within the council. It's not just a report. It's been led by Peter, so I'd like to give him credit, and also by Stephen as the Chief Executive, and how we're looking to improve the data we have, to improve the regularity of performance reporting, of milestones in everything we do, so that we improve that grip of performance that we have and our ability to honestly assess what we're doing in a self-aware way as an organisation, and therefore build on plans to improve things from there. Performance and improvement is always an area where there'll be more to do. We should never rest, but I think that culture of data intelligence and acting on that intelligence in a way that is that sets clear milestones and expectation is a definite a bonus and something that I think forms part of the culture of this organisation now, and not just a one-off annual report. I would like to point out, as you'd expect me to probably, that performance and funding are inevitably linked. So many of the teams that work for the council now are doing a role with fewer people than ever before and with greater demands than ever before, and that does have implications. National governments love to talk as if their decisions have no bearing on the work that goes on in local government, but we're often the ones at the end of the line picking up the can for decisions made to cut funding. And quite often as a local member, I am frustrated by things that I think we could do better, by things that go wrong. But then I do have to also, as an employer, recognise that very often that is the direct result of staff of fewer staff trying to do more, especially in the very visible areas of our borough. And I think it would be wrong of us as employers to not recognise that. Yes, we should aim high. Yes, we should have high expectations. But also we should be reasonable about what we demand of our staff, because times have been tough for them as well. I know times are also very tough for residents. And I know quite often there's a focus on what doesn't go as planned and what could improve. And that is quite right. If we just sort of congratulated ourselves on what went well, we'd be failing those people because we wouldn't be looking at what we could do better. But I would like to end really on, yes, we should always aim high, but we should always thank our staff for the work that they do. Local government and all public services at the end of the day are the sum total of the efforts of those who work in them. Over the last 15 years, they've had difficult times. They've had their salaries eroded by 20% in real terms. And as I've said before, they're having to do more work with fewer people. So I think it would be remiss of us as council not to say thank you in welcoming this report for the huge amount of work they do. There are countless examples of our staff going above and beyond the call of duty, doing things that, they shouldn't be expected to do very often because of the situations they find themselves in. So I think we should all end by saying a big thank you to the staff for the work that they do, for the residents of this council, for the services, and to make our place a better place to live.
Thank you, Councillor. And I'm sure that you echo all members' sentiments. Thank you very much. I don't see anyone else wishing to speak on this report. Can I thank Nigel and Peter for their report and the executive members? That was just an end-of-year update. God help us in 5 years' time. It will be a long one in 2027. So thanks very much for that. The recommendations, members, are on page 95 of the report. Can I ask members whether they agree with the recommendations, please? Thank you. Anyone against those recommendations? Any abstentions? That report is carried. Thank you very much, members. That takes us to agenda item 11, raising the rate, recycling improvement, which is on page 117 of the report. Rachel Jowett, Strategic Director of Economy and Environment. That's a mouthful. Could you please deliver your report, please?
Thank you, Presiding Member. Good morning, members. Just a quite straightforward report to you today. The Council received a petition on 25th of April calling for cessation of the consultation on introducing 3 or 4 weekly collections. We have to respond to the petition formally, but obviously at that same council meeting, the leader announced that the consultation was to be closed and he launched the Raise the Rate campaign. So the proposal is just that we formally recognise the petition, we thank the petitioners, and then I just write to them to advise of the work going forward. It also seemed timely, given on the back of the Raise the Rate campaign, working with the leader and Stephen, the report outlines the new governance regime, which Councillor Jones has already alluded to help us on the improvement journey for recycling. 2 boards have been created, which are to help us drive, support and challenge and assure the work. And I'm pleased that particularly the Strategic Partnership Board is made up of a cross-section of members and also wider external partners such as Capital Valleys Plastic. We also have representatives from the Climate Change Ambassadors Group, and we also have industry experts who are supporting us on that journey. And the purpose of that is to assure and challenge and support the team and making the right decisions and ensuring that what we're doing is right both for the council and also the residents of Torfaen. And at a delivery level, there's an accelerated improvement group. So we're very much trying to follow the model that's been used in education on the back of the improvement journey, which is about sort of like really holding the council and the service to account on the delivery timescales that have been put in place. At the last Strategic Partnership Board, the members received the draft improvement plan. 5 key work streams have been identified. There's a lot of work going on that over the summer, particularly, and we're working in close partnership with local partnerships and RAP, both of whom have been funded by Welsh Government to support us on that journey. And we will be looking to hold a member seminar and in the autumn prior to reports coming through the Strategic Partnership Board and then back through to Cabinet to really ensure that we're doing the right things at the right time, taking our residents with us to raise the rate. So thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Councillor Mandielli.
Thank you, Rose. It's been nearly 3 months now since the leader announced the start of an innovative campaign to increase recycling rates in Torfaen. We listened to the concerns of residents like Mr Saunders and reflected on the direction we were taking. Raise the Rate is much about transforming our waste and recycling service as it is about helping residents and communities recycle more. The new governance arrangements outlined in the report will help to ensure that we steer a steady course towards 70% recycling, and I thank the members who volunteered to sit on the Strategic Partnership Board. Over the summer, we're going to be drawing up a detailed blueprint for the future of the Council's recycling service with the help of industry experts, RAP and the local partnerships, both fully funded by Welsh Government to support councils. We're working hard to present a comprehensive strategy to Cabinet in the autumn also. We've also embarked on a programme to inform and educate the public about our recycling services. For example, We've produced new recycling leaflets, posters, and I'm sure some of you have seen the social media videos promoting our food waste and textiles. We've promoted the launch of new services like battery and stretchy plastic recycling. Last month, we attended a big event in Cwmbran. We spoke to more than 100 residents. We're shortly going to be advertising our curbside recycling services on roundabouts. In the autumn, we will roll out a new food waste recycling campaign and publish a Raise the Rate Torvine Talks special, which will be delivered to every household. And as the leader said when he announced the start of the Raise the Rate, we've made great strides in increasing our recycling rate, but we can all do a little bit more. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mandy Owen. Councillor Giles Davis.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Presiding Member. I was just wondering if you think that the public consultation was put forward way too soon, just caused a lot of upset and a really bad PR exercise for the council, and really all this work should have been done way before that public consultation went out. We seem to be now acting because basically we had a smack on the wrist off the public. Should this have been done beforehand? Just wondered what your thoughts are on this. It could have caused a hell of a lot of less upset for the council and for members who had to bear the brunt of their anger.
Can I come back on that?
Yes.
Hindsight is a wonderful thing, Councillor Davis, I've got to be honest. Yeah, we can always improve on everything that we do. But I think the important thing is not looking back, looking forward, and engaging with the public, engaging with everybody, and all being responsible. And just working hard to increase those recycling rates.
Thank you, Councillor Mandy Owen. Any Councillor Hunt? Yeah.
I think that the important thing to note with this is that no change is not an option, and we have to do something to raise that recycling rate. And I think the way we're going about it now is the right way in trying to work with people. But you've seen what's happening elsewhere, not just in Wales, but across the UK with this. We're not alone in struggling with this in Torvine, but I think it's right that we take this way forward now. It's not the easy way to do it. It's the ambitious way to do it, but I think it's the right way to do it. And I think it's quite right that when we consult, we try and listen as best as we can to the responses that we get. I think if we hadn't have consulted, then we may not have had the ideas and the drive to progress in the way that we're now doing.
Thank you, Councillor Hunt. Councillor Alfie Best.
Thank you. Is there any indication of improvements? Excuse me, of improvements in the rate since the start of the campaign yet? Do we have anything on that?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Best. It's a bit early at the moment. We are very conscious that most of the campaign has been online. We really need to get to every household, which is why, particularly in the autumn, it does take time to resource up to that level. So with the food waste campaign, we are looking at doorstepping, engagement, and having a bigger resource into that, and that's going to be subject of a further report into council, and also through the Torvine Talks. We get the data monthly but we do need to look at the trends. The summer months are always higher because of garden waste participation. So we are looking at this as the overall trend. So at the moment, a bit too early to say, but one we're definitely keeping an eye on.
Thank you, Rachel. I've got Councillor Stuart Ashley online.
This is partly this as well. I noticed the Welsh Government's minded to look at plastics. Obviously, plastics is a bigger issue than just recycling. They're looking at takeaways and things like that. How are we looking at managing plastics into our waste streams? It's a big issue. As I said, takeaways and disposables, because that's now forming a residual part in our communities as well. Could you reflect on that, if you would, please, Rachel?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Ashley. Yeah, clearly Welsh Government are proposing on banning some single-use item plastics, cotton buds, knives, forks, very much the disposable items which are one use. Now, clearly, if they are taken out of the residual stream, they are difficult to recycle. We wouldn't collect those at curbside at the moment, given the type of plastic they are. Our reprocessor wouldn't take them. So anything which actually reduces the residual at source actually benefits our recycling rate in the long run. I will say given the quantum and those types of materials, they are mainly aimed at litter prevention rather than waste reduction. But anything will help, because those streams will be a very, very tiny percentage of our waste. As members would have seen that lovely image we've got, we do know that 40% of our bin, the refuse, the purple lidded bin, is still food waste. That's why we are particularly keen to focus on that, but get it right for the autumn to engage with the residents.
Chair, may I just briefly come back? The problem we've got is once we get the 70%, then we're picking off all the stuff in the bin. I'm well aware of that in my other role. It's just it's plastics is a nuisance. I agree with Rachel on that, and it's not something you can put into the recycling stream, but it's something that people get very exercised about. So the 3R approach, the reduce as well. I'm just wondering where we can go with that, because I totally agree with the approach that says we need to engage more. People are very aware of it, from what I understand. They always have been. And it's how we get that engagement, which was very evident with this process. I commend you for actually getting on the case on this one.
Thank you, Councillor Ashley. Councillor Janet Jones.
Sorry, just to say a big thank you to the team for the action they've taken. It's not going to be an overnight success, but we are starting to see improvements, and I thank you for the initiative, and long may you carry on.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Councillor Giles Davis, did you want to come back in, or is that a legacy?
Yeah, great, thanks. Yeah, just going to say that hindsight is a wonderful thing, but at the end of the day, we've got to remember in future to learn from this, actually listen to the people out there who put us in this position. At the end of the day, we are there to represent them, and there was a lot of anger over it, which seemed to be, just basically steamroll it over. So I'm hoping that we've learned from this, that Nanny doesn't always know best, and we are put there by the people to represent the people, and in future we should listen to them before steamrolling a consultation through, which didn't give the option to actually answer it correctly without agreeing to three weekly or monthly bin collections. That was a big boo-boo, basically, by us, not just as a Labour group, well, by the Labour group, but by us as a council. They should never have gone through. So hopefully we've learned from that. This is wonderful what we're doing now. It's what should have been done a long time ago. And fingers crossed we'll get the results we want, but at least the consultation would have been done correctly. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. Councillor Ron Burnett.
Thank you, Chair. As Councillor Davis just said, we were listening to the people, but now the people have a chance to listen to us, because we have to reach our targets. And all I will say is, and I look at it, and where I live, I know many people recycle their food waste, not a lot, and 35% of residual waste is the food going into bins. So anybody in this chamber, or anybody listening, the next time you have your recycling picked up, count how many brown bins are in your area and how many of your neighbours are actually recycling. And I can assure you, it's not a lot. So it's about time that people started listening to us as well, and not just us listening. It works both ways, you see. It works both ways. It's not just us listening to them, they go listen to us as well. What we need to achieve. Because at the end of the day, if they don't listen, somebody's got to pay for it either way.
Thank you, Councillor Burnett. Councillor Anthony Henn.
No, I'd like to thank Councillor Burnett for that contribution. Yeah, sometimes leadership should be about listening, but it's also about leading. And we can't ignore the inescapable reality of the fact that, on food waste, for example, there is much more that we can do together, and we need to make it easier for people. But at the end of the day, people need to recycle that food waste, otherwise it costs money, as well as being bad for the environment. I know one council in England calculated, I think it was Devon Council, that it cost them £3 million extra to process the recyclable waste that is in their residual bins. That's money down the drain, quite literally, and worse because of what happens to the waste then. So that is the appeal to people. Yes, we have to listen, but we have to lead, and let's all work together to try and raise that rate, both for the environmental interests of everyone, but also for the financial interests too.
Thank you, Councillor Hunt. Councillor Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. I think residents of Torvine should feel extremely comfortable in the fact that this council leader, executive member for the environment, has taken their worries, all our officers, has taken their worries very, very seriously, and we're all working extremely hard to help the residents and this council raise the rate in Torfaen. So I am a resident of Torfaen, obviously, but as a member of the board as well, I'm extremely proud of the work that we're doing at the moment, and I think we're doing a fantastic job.
Thank you, members. I don't see any other comments. That takes us to the recommendations on page 121 of the report. I'll ask members whether you agree with the recommendations, please. Thank you. Any members against those recommendations? And any abstentions? Thank you very much. That report is carried. Thank you, Rachel. Agenda item 12, which is the delivery agreement for Torfaen Replacement Local Development Plan. We've got Rob Murray, Principal Planner, presenting the agenda item 12 today. That's the delivery, the replacement of the local development plan on page 129.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. Following the decision of the Council to withdraw its initial replacement local development plan at its meeting on the 25th of April, which was confirmed by the Welsh Minister on the 2nd of May 2023, the Council has commenced work on preparing a new replacement local development plan with a revised time span of April 2022 to March 2037. The Planning and Compulsory Act, Purchase Act 2004 requires local authorities to produce a local development plan for their area and to do this in accord with an agreed delivery agreement. The delivery agreement is a succinct public statement that contains two parts. The first is a timetable for preparing the plan, and secondly, a community involvement scheme setting out how and when stakeholders and the community contribute to the plan preparation, development, monitoring and review. Following completion of the consultation on the new delivery agreement for this plan, this report is to consider all comments made and approve a new delivery agreement for submission to the Welsh Government for final agreement. 4 responses received to the consultation, and these are reproduced in Appendix 1 together with our response. The proposed delivery agreement detailed in Appendix 2. Recommendations are detailed in Section 8, requesting the Council 1. Approves the final replacement Torfaen Local Development Plan Delivery Agreement 22 to 37, attached to Appendix 2 for submission to the Welsh Government for their approval, and 2. Agrees to delegate to the Head of Planning and Development any final minor amendments, corrections for the Torfaen Local Development Plan Delivery Agreement prior to submission to the Welsh Government. Subject to the recommendations being accepted and agreement by Welsh Ministers, work will then commence on the Torfaen Replacement Local Development Plan in August of this year. Thank you very much, Madam Presiding Member.
Thank you, Rob. Any questions, members? No? Thank you very much, Rob, for that report. I don't see any questions. Members, the recommendations are on page 133, as just read out by Rob. Can I ask members whether they agree with the recommendations? Thank you. Anyone against those recommendations? Any abstentions? That report is carried. Thank you very much. Agenda item 13, the annual scrutiny report 22-23, which is on page 169. Tom Roberts, Business Support Services Manager, and accompanied by Rebecca. Thank you very much. Can you deliver the report, please?
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member, and good morning, members. The report before you is the annual scrutiny report, setting out an overview of the work of our scrutiny committees in the last year. It is recommended good practice that all councils publish a summary of their scrutiny function each year to actively promote the role and value of the scrutiny function to both internal and external stakeholders. The report is the Chair's report, so my introduction will be short before I hand over to the Chairs of the respective scrutiny committees over the previous municipal year. However, I would like to thank Rebecca, who has sat alongside me, who has been doing the hard yards pulling this report together. She has also been instrumental in shaping and improving this annual report in the last few years. As members are aware, May 2022 saw the election of 17 new members onto the Council, many of those newly elected members being appointed to one or more of the Council's overview and scrutiny committees. Whilst being part of the scrutiny process has therefore been new for a significant proportion of the elected members, their appointments and engagement have brought a wealth of new experiences, knowledge and views that we have helped shape and evolve the crucial democratic function. This report gives a high-level view of the work that has been carried out alongside some key data on different aspects of the work, including the amount of scrutiny that has taken place, the recommendations made, and how they have been dealt with. Effective scrutiny is a key component of the Council's overall arrangements for robust governance. The document therefore provides assurances that appropriate checks and balances are in place through our scrutiny function. Key parts of the report set out how scrutiny is operated to engage the public and other groups to enhance the scrutiny function, the governance role around how the committee support the monitor of regulatory work, the impact that has been made by scrutiny, in particular in shaping council policy. As you would expect, there are areas of work that we're looking to develop in the year ahead, not least in responding to the recent member survey, such as looking for new ways to involve and engage the public, giving information to members in manageable bite-sized chunks, working through if there are more effective ways that recommendations could be formulated by committees, and training. All chairs and committee members have had training opportunities available to them over the last few weeks, and we will continue to seek further support in this area. There is also new officer support that is being put in place for scrutiny. Finally, each committee has their own review section on the work they have carried out, including a statement from each of the respective chairs. This feels like a good point to hand over to the chairs who may wish to say a few words in support of the report. I'll hand you back to the presiding member.
Thank you, Tom. I'll take the first one, if you like. I won't go in the order that it is in the report, but as chair of the Scrutiny Committee, I'd just like to echo my report within the document and thank all members of the Scrutiny Committee for participating in what has been a very good, successful year for education. Thank you. Anyone else wish to comment?
Yeah, if I could, Chair, Councillor Evans. Yeah, I'd just like to thank you. We've had some very difficult topics. We made sure we involve the residents and co-partners. But I'd like to thank the members of the Scrutiny Committee for being deeply involved and listening to all the comments that people put in for us. So thank you very much. Sorry, my voice is going up. So.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Councillor Ashley.
Following Steve Evans with his voice going, that's unusual. No, thank you very much for the report. Everybody for attending the meeting, because I've got the big meeting which has everybody on the back bench potentially, and I'd like to thank the officers because it's a huge meeting, the cross-cutting, and normally we got the global things. We did two goes at the county plan, which you've just heard as scrutiny, and thank you everybody for that one. That was a mammoth exercise. And then we did the strategic equality, and then we do the piece of work which we do every year, which is gathering the evidence and doing the financial planning. So that for the cross-cutting, that's something we do every year. Now the point I say about the cross-cutting is what you make of it. And lots of members, I think new members from this year's, from the new intake, I think you're beginning to get a feel for what this is all about. And it's about you, not chair. The chair is there just to sort of help get along. And I've done it for a few years now, same as Rose has on education. So it's your meeting and you go along and take part. So I really emphasize that part about attendance and taking part, because I think you're getting the confidence, new members, and that's brilliant. It's not about me, it's about you. And I can't emphasize that, because I think you've all just taken part in training recently, and taking part in the training is really, really useful. I did it a few terms back, and it's really, really helpful. So that training is there for you, and I think that would be really helpful. I make that point because that gives you good scrutiny, and you get a good outcome. And the outcomes about our scrutiny are really, really important. I can't emphasize that. The officers have made the point there in their scrutiny report, and so have all the bodies outside. Generally, we get really good scrutiny as well. That's the point I'm going to make, and I'm going to leave it there and say thank you very much for the officers, and thank you for you attending scrutiny. It is really important for this council that you do that. Thank you, Rose.
Thank you, Councillor Ashley. Any other chairs wishing to speak? Councillor Janet Jones.
Thank you, Chair. Just to endorse everything everyone said, I've had a fantastic year on the Health Committee. Thank you to all the members for the support, and a special thanks to our scrutiny officer, who's been invaluable. So thank you. Long may we progress again this year and achieve success. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Any other chair wishing to speak? I'm going to open it up to the floor now then, if anyone has any questions for any officers or chairs of the scrutiny committees. I don't see anyone responding, so thank you very much for that report. Oh, apologies, Councillor David Williams.
Thank you, Chair. It was really just to sort of say that I found this a very readable and clear report, which I think is a credit to the officers and the chairs. And I would echo the comments that have been made about good scrutiny, and I think the evidence is there in terms of the report, which I think is an excellent benchmark, and let's hope that we can go forward in the same way, the same level of relevance and outcome for the following year.
Thank you very much. It's not an easy job, scrutiny, and it's a lot of teamwork behind the scenes to get us to in front of the camera. So yes, I'd like to echo my thanks to all the officers concerned. The recommendations start on page 170 of the report. Can I ask members whether they agree with the recommendations, please? Thank you. Anyone against those recommendations? And any abstentions? Thank you. That report is carried. Thank you very much, members. Takes us to agenda item 14, which is the annual Strategic Equality Report 22-23. And this report starts on page 201 of the agenda. Stephen Honeywell, Partnerships Policy and Equality Officer, could you deliver the report, please?
Chair, could I come in first?
Yes, certainly.
If possible, thank you. Before I start, Councillor Burnett, I'm not going to speak so long this time on this report.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you.
Okay. The Council's Strategic Equality Plan for 2020 to 2024 was developed to guide the Council's efforts to advance equality and diversity and to demonstrate our ongoing commitment to meeting the public sector equality duties and the Equality Act of 2010. Torfaen County Borough Council remains committed to the principles of inclusion, fairness, equity of outcomes and social justice, and we strive to ensure that this is demonstrated in our employment practices, our staff attitudes and behaviours in our service delivery. Ensuring our services help and support vulnerable people and those within our communities who have faced disadvantage remains an important priority for this Council. Despite financial and other challenges, we continue to work towards not only maintaining but improving our services so they work for and protect the rights of the people and groups covered by the Equality Act. Over the past year, the Council continued to honour its commitment to achieving greater equality in the performance of all aspects of its business. Our annual equality report that we bring before you today allows us to monitor our progress, to self-reflect on where we can do better, and also to celebrate our forward movement. With that in mind, I would like to state my appreciation for the drive and determination of the numerous officers who contributed to this report, who have clearly been determined to create real change. And I need to make a big thank you to Stephen Honeywell, who's going to speak in a minute. I'm particularly pleased that we continue to make great efforts to involve people in our discussions. This year saw the launch of a new and improved consultation platform and a drive to get more people engaged with it. Our investment of time with disabled people and third sector organisations through Torfaen Access Forum is bearing fruit, with real lived experience informing how best to target our resources. The result is improved travel routes within our communities that work for all. The result is confidence in the accessibility of our business, including polling stations. The result is a democratic county, a borough that hears every voice and doesn't leave anybody behind. Our work on the PSB's wellbeing plan over the last year provided an opportunity to reach out to communities of interest, start new relationships and build on existing ones. We also published our public participation strategy that clearly outlines a commitment to listening, and our county plan that has challenged inequity and the doing at its heart, which I spoke about earlier in this meeting. I would like to make members aware that work will soon begin on drafting a new strategic equality plan to be published in April to take us to 2028. PSSU have put this forward as a suggestive item for cross-cutting scrutiny, but are keen to begin conversations and invite dialogue. If you have thoughts about what we should be doing going forward, please contact me or Stephen Honeywell. For now, today's report makes a simple recommendation that the Council notes the content and approves the 2022-23 annual progress report on the Council's strategic equality plan. I hope you will share my gratitude for this comprehensive narrative on the progress made. I will now hand over to Stephen, who can go into a lot more detail on the report. Thank you.
Thank you for that introduction, Councillor Jones. And good morning, presiding member and members. The Strategic Equality Plan is an important document. It encourages us to consider our working practices and our service delivery through the lens of inequality. It seeks to nurture a culture of empathy and consideration across the organisation. And with your oversight, it makes teams accountable for progressing the equalities agenda. The plan is a vehicle for encouraging a person-centred approach that aims for equitable outcomes for all. It is very much aligned towards the resourcing and delivering of universal services at a scale and intensity that is proportionate to the degree of need, as encouraged by Professor Marmot in the Institute of Health Equity. If we are to work in the cost-effective realm of prevention, then as public services we need to do the things that will lower the level of need for reaction. Disadvantage, of course, increases this level of need, and we therefore need to remove the prejudice that creates disadvantage, remove the systemic discrimination that creates disadvantage, and remove the barriers to equitable access that create disadvantage. Despite the progress detailed in this report, we, as with our whole society as a whole, still have a long way to go. Investing the time required to understanding equalities topics, investing the resource in listening to protected groups, and nurturing a culture of inclusion is all essential to the progress we need to see. Although this report is collated and presented to you by our team in the PSSU, and many of the issues addressed have been raised by us, responsibility for the actions very much lies across the Council. On that point, I would like to follow Councillor Jones's lead and thank all the contributors, as it is only with a collective and a sustained effort to understand and tackle equalities issues that we will see a fairer Torfaen. Councillor Jones has reflected on some of the positive activity in this report, but I will briefly outline a few of the additional highlights listed. A recruitment training module has been designed that all managers will be required to undertake before they conduct interviews, aiming to highlight good practice and to avoid bias. A wellness action plan is being developed that will support mental well-being in the workplace. This will, of course, be positive for all of us, but there is statistical evidence that disadvantaged groups suffer disproportionately with mental health issues. We have reduced the number of young people not in employment, education or training. Over the year, the Council delivered over £800,000 of cost of living support to at-risk residents, and this support was targeted at priority groups, including those in receipt of free school meals and older residents in receipt of community meals. The financial inclusion team raised or saved their clients more than £86,000 via benefit claims, grant applications, reducing outgoings, etc. The team prevented 19 cases from becoming homeless as a result of their interventions. We continue to make accessibility improvements in many school sites. The regional partnership team delivered the first Gwent Dementia Friendly Communities Conference since the pandemic. This was well attended, attracting 135 delegates and a further 34 people attending an evening webinar. Speaking of the pandemic, we have also managed to bring the attendance levels of our 50+ forums back up to pre-pandemic levels. Phase 1 of the Torfaen Youth Alliance project was successfully completed, and we have now moved on to Phase 2. And as Councillor Jones alluded to, the Equalities team and indeed members here today continue to work actively with Torfaen Access Forum to bring the disadvantage faced by disabled people in Torfaen to the attention of various service areas. I would like to thank Sports Development, our elections team, our active travel officer and other colleagues in neighbourhoods who are working to make the built environment more accessible, working with the group, and for the way in which they have actively and passionately engaged with the group at our request. And I would also like to thank colleagues in Regeneration for listening to our concerns about disabled parking and the accessibility and safety of toilets in Pontypool, and for factoring required improvements into the successful Levelling Up Fund bid. As Councillor Jones mentioned, over coming months there is need to produce a new strategic equality plan to be published in April. We value co-production and would very much welcome your thoughts and input. With that, I'll hand back, if I may, to the presiding member.
Thank you, Stephen. Any comments from members? I can't see any hands up. No, David, thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Presiding Member. It's, I think it was very interesting to see how comprehensive and how wide-ranging this is. I suppose in relation to the final point that you made, Stephen, I think it really behoves us to make sure we take this with us into our forward planning, for our planning committees and other things as well, because that is really where we're going to get some of that built-in equality, as it were, in what we go forward to do. So thank you very much to all officers and all involved in contributing to this report.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Thank you, Stephen. Obviously, this equality report runs through every part of our council. So thank you, members, for that. Recommendations start on page 204 of the report. Can I ask members whether they agree those recommendations, please? Thank you. Anyone against those recommendations? And any abstentions? That report is carried. Thank you very much. Takes us to agenda item 15, which is the update to political balance, committee chairs and membership of committees. The report starts on page 249. Jason Lewis, Director of Corporate Services and Head of Democratic Services, could you deliver the report for us, please?
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. The purpose of the report is to notify and seek agreement from members to a change in political balance and a consequent committee membership allocation. This follows receipt of formal notification from Councillor Giles Davis that he has joined the independent group. The consequent changes to the political balance of the council is now shown in Appendix A. Group leaders have agreed on the committee seat allocation shown in paragraph 5.6 of the report. Scrutiny chair allocation is calculated in accordance with statutory guidance. As a consequence, the Labour group are now entitled to 3 chairs, with the independent group and the Torfaen independent group each entitled to 1 chair. The recommended committee appointments following these changes are described in Appendix B, which has been circulated to you this morning. I'd like to draw your attention to one specific point in the appendix in relation to the membership of the Democratic Services Committee. There is a nomination for this committee from the Labour group that remains to be confirmed, and it's proposed that the appointment will be confirmed and notified to you by email after this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any comments of Councillor Rombanet?
Thank you, Chair. All I can say is, here we go again. How many times can this really happen? And I know the members of the other group are listening. And I've got tickets to sell if you want to buy some for the Torfaen Circus merry-go-round, because this is what it's turning into, a circus. And I wonder what the public are thinking when people, one day they want to be this, the next day they want to be that. And it brings, I'm a bit of a singer myself, and it brings a song to mind. It's the Okie Kokie, and you put your whole self in, your whole self out, in, out, shake it all about. And that's what it's doing. It's causing mayhem sometimes, unnecessary work. Some people really want to get a grip of it, and that's all I want to say.
Thank you, Councillor Burnett. Councillor Giles Davis.
I can just say that's extremely childish behaviour from a leader of another independent, and really, I always thought independents work together. We are the opposition. We need to be working together, more so towards the next election in 2027. And I'm quite embarrassed, really, that another independent, this council,
thank you,
keeps
members.
our attitude. Okay, thank you. I'm just passing it on, my feelings, which I'm entitled to. So yeah, passed on, and thank you. I appreciate the chair or the non-chairs.
Thank you, and I'd like to thank the officers for their work in putting this report together. There's a serious point that was made, I think, by Councillor Burnett that's worth noting. The amount of officer work that goes in every time that happens isn't insignificant, and that is something I think we should consider as members.
Thank you, Councillor Hunt. No other comments? Councillor Giles Davis, thank you, that's a legacy hand. And I ask members to note the recommendations on page 250 and ask members whether they agree with the recommendations, please. All those in favour? Thank you. Anyone against? Any abstentions? That report is carried. Thank you very much, Jason. Takes us to agenda item 16, which is the nominations to outside bodies in year update, July 23. These are on page 253 of the agenda. Jason Lewis, Corporate Director of Corporate Services and Head of Democratic Service, could you deliver this report for us, please?
Thanks again, Madam Presiding Member. So this report is to notify Council of a change to membership of an outside body that has been agreed by the Leader and the Chief Executive under their delegated powers. Councillor Sue Morgan has stepped down from the Board of Directors for Llantarnam Grange Arts Centre, and I can confirm that the nominated replacement is Councillor Alan Slade. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any comments, queries? The recommendations start on page 253, which is what Jason has just said. Can I ask members whether they agree with these recommendations, please? Thank you. Anyone against the recommendations? And any abstentions? Thank you. That report is carried. Thank you very much. Agenda item 17, motions on notice. Motion 1, Councillor Janet Jones. Can you move and explain your motion for us, please, as shown on page 257 of the agenda?
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. Over recent weeks, I've read articles, researched and had conversations which have led me to believe that we, as an authority, could be doing more to help our male residents, many who could be suffering from Crohn's disease, prostate illnesses and prostate cancer. Those suffering for such illnesses are prone to using incontinence items that they need to dispose of safely and hygienically. Unless they are able to access and use disabled toilets, this is not always possible. Therefore, as we improve, upgrade or build new public toilet facilities, consideration should be given to placing bins in the borough's gents' toilets. It would demonstrate that we understand the needs of our male residents and show that we care about their welfare. It's to this end that I put forward for consideration the motion, Bins for Men. The motion is seconded by Councillor Horler and is supported by Councillor Ron Burnett.
Thank you very much, Councillor Janet Jones. So we recorded those seconded. Councillor David Daniels.
Yeah, I just want to endorse it myself, actually. I mean, and just thank Councillor Jones, who's been a consistent advocate for the older generation and for people with all sorts of living conditions. Yeah, it's fantastic, and it's a move that we need to make. Ultimately, we need to make toilets in general more accessible. We need to have more changing places, spec'd toilets around the borough and elsewhere across the country. Yeah, this is important, and it may seem like a small thing to some, but it'll make a massive difference to those who live with those conditions. So it's just to say that I'll be wholeheartedly endorsing it, and just to thank you for your ongoing work, Janet.
Thank you, Councillor Daniels. If anyone wants to add an amendment to this motion? No? Thank you very much. I'll just turn my page. Yeah, we have seconded, yeah. You recorded the seconders. Councillor Horler and Councillor Burnett supporting, yeah. Thank you. Councillor Jones, do you wish to have a right of reply? Oh, apologies. Councillor Stewart Ashley.
I just want to reflect that we had a scrutiny back in 2017, which I don't think many of the councillors are here, which reflected on the, I think you were here, Chair, on this one, where we had a scrutiny on the provision of toilets, and I think I'd like to support it because it's very worthwhile, especially the bit of bins for men as well. And that scrutiny, if you want to go back on it, was that that obviously provision for toilets was needed. So I'd like to support this as well, if I may.
Thank you, Councillor Ashley. Councillor Janet Jones, do you wish to have a right to reply?
Just thank you for allowing me to bring the motion, and thank for the support. And it's nice to see that we're all moving forward and treating everyone equally.
Thank you very much. Can I ask members if they are in support of this motion then, please? Thank you. Anyone against the motion? Any abstentions? That motion is carried. Thank you very much. Motion 2, Councillor Giles Davis. Can you move and explain your motion for us, please, as shown on page 259 of the agenda?
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. This council notes that the LGBTQ+ community is an important part of our society, and that it is important to support and celebrate diversity in all forms. This council also notes that the LGBTQ+ community has faced significant challenges over the years, including discrimination and prejudice. This council therefore resolves to support LGBTQ+ pride events across the borough in their communications, including social media channels, highlighting the importance of pride and why we must continue to support our LGBTQ+ family members, friends, colleagues and constituents. This council also resolves to provide equality and diversity in all forms and to work towards creating a more inclusive society for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. Is this motion seconded?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Haynes. That's seconded. Members, do you wish to debate this? Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. I welcome this motion and I thank you, Councillor Davis, for raising this. I can assure everyone that council officers are already in dialogue with Club FOD, the organisation that has proposed the Torvine Pride event. Several steps have already been taken to clarify the necessary process to hold a public event in the borough, and a provisional date for an event in Pontypool Park on the 1st of June 2024 has been set. The expectation is that the Torvine Pride will be a community-led event, but council officers will, of course, continue, and I emphasise the word continue because we've been supporting this group for quite a while, to listen to the group's plans and needs and support with advice and guidance where appropriate. In the last few years, we've seen a number of local Pride events spring up in neighbouring boroughs, with Pride events taking place in Abergavenny, Newport, and most recently in Caerphilly on the 24th of June. Pride is both historically and at its heart a protest promoting awareness and increasing visibility of LGBTQ+ matters. I am concerned about the increasing levels of hate crime against LGBTQ+ people that we've seen over the last few years, and the divisive and toxic online discourse around gender identity, and see these new events as a sign that the LGBTQ+ community in Gwent believe their rights are under threat. These events are also about social inclusion, and I also recognise and value Club FOD's mission to reduce social isolation within the community. As I said at the last council meeting, we're a proud council and we want to support these events going forward. So I would therefore ask members to support this motion, please.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Councillor Clark.
Can I just say I fully support the motion, though a little surprised by it because of what Peter's just outlined. I think the council has supported these values for a number of years, supporting through the awareness of pride issues during Pride Month, and we've done that for quite a long time. So I welcome Councillor Davis to that journey. Personally, it was that support that enabled me and helped me to go from an individual in denial to be a proud and accepting person of who I am. So I fully support the motion. It's stuff that we're already doing. As Councillor Jones said earlier, we can always seek to do more, but I, for one, am fully proud of A, who I am, and B, what this council does and support. And as a result, I will be fully supporting this motion, although I believe it's something we've been doing on a long-standing basis. And in relation to the final sentence, we've had the report today and we've had it earlier on the equality and diversity of the borough, and long may that continue, and we fully support it. So I believe it's all in place. As I said, it's helped me transition, but not in that transition way, to be and it wouldn't bother me if it was, but to accept who I am. So I fully support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Anyone wish to move an amendment to this? No? Thank you. Councillor Davis, do you wish to have a right of reply?
Oh, yes, please. Just while some people from the outside looking in today might see this as an unnecessary given the support already being provided by the council, just by having this motion being put through council today and through the council process, it helps young LGBT plus people in our borough and surrounding area feel and seen as being valued in a world that isn't always as welcoming. And that was why I put this motion through today, just to have it going through council officially and give them a bit more recognition. Also, as well, as Peter mentioned, thanks to the charity Club FOD for setting up services in South Wales recently. And also, as well, he clarified that the first Pride event in Torfaen will take place on the 1st of June at Pontypool Park next year. So thanks, members, for all support. This will mean a lot to our constituents. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Davis. I don't see any other members wishing to speak, so can I ask members if they're all in favour of this motion? Thank you. Anyone against? Any abstentions? That motion is carried. Thank you very much. Takes us to agenda item 18, which is the members' question time. There are no members' questions, so we'll move on to agenda item 19, which is the Cabinet decisions of the 6th of the 6th, 2023. Cabinet decisions start on page 261, and for Council to note, there were no challenges to any decisions. Anyone wishing to speak on the Cabinet minutes? I'll ask members whether they're in agreement with the recommendations, then please. All those in favour? Thank you. Anyone against? Any abstentions? Thank you. We note those Cabinet decisions. The date and time of the next meeting. For your information, members, the next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, the 19th of September, 2023 at 10 a.m. Have a good August recess, and thank you for your attendance this morning.